Yes, I see it moving. Oh, so exciting. Okay, let's try it. Hi, everyone, and welcome to Looped In. This is the Houston Chronicle podcast all about real estate. The dirt, the deals, the people, the places. It's all here. I'm Rebecca Schutz, real estate reporter with the Houston Chronicle, and I'm here today virtually with Nancy Sarnoff. Hi, Nancy.
Hey, Rebecca.
We're actually both sitting in our closets for good audio.
This is a real trial and error situation we've got.
So, the novel coronavirus has introduced a whole new vocabulary to the mainstream, including the term social distancing. That's why we're across town from one another. But social distancing is fundamentally at odds with entire industries, including hotels, restaurants, sporting events, and casinos, in which the whole point is to be a hub for people. Those are some of the industries that have felt the effect of social distancing, which is necessary to slow the spread of the coronavirus, the earliest and the hardest. And a prominent Houstonian who has his hands in all of those industries is Tilman Fertitta.
Tilman Fertitta.
Yeah, whom Nancy has been writing about. So for those of us who don't know, can you tell us a little bit about Tilman Fertitta?
Sure. So Tilman Fertitta has businesses in restaurants. He has casinos. He has amusement parks. He has hotels. He is in all kinds of hospitality-based businesses. He's based in Houston. He's got probably 65,000 employees, and he runs it all from an office building on the West Loop here in Houston. His company is called Landry's. He owns Bubba Gump Shrimp Company, Rainforest Cafe, Morton's Steakhouse, Saltgrass Steakhouse. The list goes on and on. He also owns, as I mentioned, casinos. He owns 5 Golden Nuggets around the country. So he owns the famous Golden Nugget in downtown Las Vegas as well. And yeah, since the coronavirus broke out, all of his business has been hit. Really, each one of them. Nothing's been spared.
And when did he first enter the spotlight in the context of the coronavirus and the impact the virus is having on the economy?
Well, so when companies started laying off or furloughing employees, he was right there with everyone else. Basically, he's furloughed 40,000 people, and he says he wants to bring them all back.
So 40,000 people furloughed. That's a huge impact on their finances. What's being done to help take care of these people?
Well, that's a good question. I think some of them are probably applying for unemployment benefits. Tilman recently said he was going to start offering meals to his employees in the Houston area. So I think he's actually got something around 10,000 employees from here to Galveston, everywhere in between. And when I heard that he was giving out these meals, I thought, I'm going to go and check it out because I wanted to see what he was giving out and see if employees were taking advantage of it. I went out one day last week, and it was around 11:30, 11:45, and I walked up to this Willie G's restaurant that he owns, and it was a really nice, friendly scene. It was a pretty day, and they had some real upbeat music playing on the speakers, and there was a white tent set up just outside the front door with those retractable dividers that you kind of walk through when you're waiting in line, like at a carnival ride or to get into a concert or something. Yeah, exactly. Oh. Airport. So those were set up. And I walked right up because there was no line.
Hi. No, I'm not an employee. Okay. Yeah, I'm.
You'll just need to stand.
Sure.
What can I do for you?
I'm a reporter with the Houston Chronicle, and was just coming to see what you guys were doing for your employees. I heard that you were giving out meals, and I just didn't know how many meals you were giving out, how many people are coming.
Yeah, of course. If you hang out.
Yeah.
So a few minutes later, another woman came out to basically say she couldn't talk to me and that I'd have to go through the company's PR firm. Mm-hmm. I was just walking around, and while I was there was a trickle of people that went into the building and came out with bags of food, but there was never a line that I saw. There was never a big rush of people. I talked to a few people who were there getting food. No one would really go on the record. One had pretty nice things to say about Fertitta, and he seemed hopeful that he would get his job back once things got back to normal. That was kind of the scene over there. And there have been a lot of questions as far as, he's this multi-billionaire. He owns the Houston Rockets. He's this huge Houston figure with all of these mansions and yachts and planes. And there's just been a lot of questions as to whether or not he's going to be able to keep his lifestyle rolling and running. And if these businesses will return, really, once this whole thing is over.
I guess he's facing what a lot of businesses are facing, in which income has dried up, especially because restaurants and bars, like a lot of the establishments he has, have been forced to close.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know some of the standing costs he has to pay in the meantime? Or maybe not specifically him, but establishments like that?
Yeah, sure. So restaurants who lease space from landlords and property owners, they still have to pay their rents. And I am sure that some landlords are giving their tenants a break, but a lot of them aren't. One interesting thing that recently came out was the Cheesecake Factory CEO came out and said, we're not going to be able to pay our rent for April at any of its locations. And that caused a real stir in the industry, in the restaurant industry, in the real estate industry, because if the retailers or the restaurants aren't paying the rent, then how are the landlords going to pay their mortgages? And so a lot of people feel like there is going to be this big kind of chain reaction that happens from, the consumer not being able to go to the restaurant has to close, the restaurant can't pay their rent to the landlord can't pay their mortgage, so the bank maybe defaults on the landlord, and then what happens to the banks? So it's something that's expected to be pretty widespread. No one's been through this before. So this is not like what happened after 9/11. This is not like what happened during the Great Recession. This is totally new.
I know this $2 trillion stimulus package was supposed to help. I mean, everyone is impacted. All the different types of businesses, all different types of workers. Do you think there's anything in that stimulus package that could maybe take the edge off of this sort of ripple effect of businesses not being able to afford their standing costs?
Yeah, I think so. I think that the businesses that are savvy enough to have their lawyers kind of pour through the stimulus package and figure out ways to maybe get low-cost loans or loans that could be forgiven. As we know, Americans who make less than $75,000 are supposed to be getting checks, and maybe that will help once the restaurants start to slowly reopen. But as of now, I think there are just still a lot of questions that remain.
Yeah. It'll be interesting to see what happens to all of these companies as they try to figure out ways to deal, as we said, restaurants to landlords. A lot of Houston's industries are being impacted. And, we're recording on March 30th. April 1st is rent day for a lot of people, a lot of businesses. And I think that's when we'll really start seeing the fallout. So stay tuned. Listeners, thanks for listening. Looped In is hosted by me, Rebecca Schutz, and Nancy Sarnoff. We're recorded and edited by Scott Kingsley. And we'll include a link to some of the stories we've mentioned in the show notes. If you don't already subscribe to Looped In, it's available wherever you listen to podcasts. And if you have an idea for the show or just want to say hi, I'm on Twitter at @RASchutz and Nancy.
I am at @NSarnoff.
Until next time, thanks for listening.